Before we grab the following sine function, the first step is to obtain all the data to plot the points. First, we need to take the amplitude, which is 2, then the d, which is the vertical translation, which is the last number of the equation, and it's 1. To get the period, the formula is 2p over b. In this case, b is the number 2, so the period will be, we cancel the 2 and it will be p. And to get the phase shift, which is a horizontal translation, we take the things that are inside the parentheses and we equal that to 0. Then we leave the x alone, and that will be the answer for the phase shift.
To get the 5 key points in our graph, we will use the phase shift as our first point, and we will add period over 4. In this problem, the period is pi, so we will be adding pi over 4. Our first point is pi over 2. Then we add pi over 4, which is 3 pi over 4. This is our second point. Then we add pi over 4 again, and it is pi. This is our third point. Then we add pi over 4, which is 5 pi over 4, plus pi over 4 is 3 pi over 2. And now we get our 5 points for the graph.
Now the third step. Now with the points and data that we already obtained, we can grab the function. First of all, we need to locate where the vertical shift is, which is 1. Now that we plot the vertical shift, and since the graph is negative, the amplitude is 2, so we start counting from where y equals 1 to up and 2 down. The next step is to locate the first point, which will be pi over 2. And since I already mentioned that the graph is negative, the next point will go downwards. Then the next point will be 3 pi over 4, comma negative 1. The next one is pi, which returns to the vertical shift, which is 1. The next point will be 5 pi over 4, which will go up 2 points up from the vertical shift, and which ends in 3. And the 3 pi over 2 will end in the vertical shift once again. And now that we already grabbed the function, and we obtained that the domain is from negative infinity to positive infinity, and the range will be from the points which are touching the negative 1, comma, positive 3. To graph this cosine function, we will follow the same procedure using the sine function. The first step is to get the amplitude, which is 3. The letter d, which is the vertical shift, is 2. The period, its formula is 2 pi over b, in which b equals 4. And we simplify and end up with pi over 2. And now for the phase shift, we need to solve for x the equation inside the parentheses. So pi over 3 equals to 0. In this step, we will use the tortilla formula. And simplify at the end, and end up with pi over 6.
The second step is to find the 5 points. For this step, we will use the phase shift, which is pi over 6 as our first point. And in order to get the other 4 points, we will use a formula which is period over 4. So we will take the period, which is pi over 2, and we will divide it by 4, and we will use the tortilla formula, and we will get pi over 8. This pi over 8 will be added to the phase shift. And then the second point will be 7 pi over 24. And again, we will add the pi over 8. And we will get 5 pi over 12, which is our third point. And then we will add again. And this will give us 13 pi over 24, and to get the final point, we will also add the pi over 8, which will give us 2 pi over 3.
To graph our cosine function, first we need to make a dotted line in the letter D. In this case, letter D is in the 2, which is the middle of our graph. Now, since the cosine function is positive, it goes down. And also, to know the limits of our graph, we add 3 and we subtract 3 from the 2 because the amplitude is 3. And now we graph, and since this cosine function is positive, it goes down. The first point will go up because the graph is positive. Then the second point goes in the middle where the dotted line is. The third point goes in the -1. Then the fourth point goes again in the middle, and the last point goes in the top. And these are our 5 key points. Now we just draw the graph. And it looks like this. So the domain, since it continues, it will be from negative infinity to positive infinity, and the range will be with bracket because it can go lower than this and it can go higher than 5, so it will be -1, 5